All right, hello, welcome, happy Thursday. My name is Kathleen, and you are here to see Let's Talk Tech. If not, you might want to evaluate whatever you clicked on. But hopefully you'll stick around for this, because tonight we're going to talk about some questions that have come up since I did the show last week about setting up your domain. And now I'm checking to make sure I have my mic on. Okay, yes, I do. Last week I talked for 2 minutes without the mic. Last week we talked about why you should have a web presence, all the benefits to it, how to set it up, that kind of thing, what it all means. But I had some questions around domain names. So tonight I thought we would dive into that in some detail. So I hope you are ready to party. I am certainly ready to go through this with you. So let's get the intro started and we will dive right in. Yes, okay, I admit it. I dance a little to the music. I can't help it, right? I mean, it's Thursday evening. We've got one more day to the week, and we are ready to dive in and talk about something that a lot of business owners have reached out and asked me about. A lot being 3. But, hey, if 3 people ask me the same question, the odds are there are other people out there that have the same questions, and so that's a good time to dive in and answer those kinds of questions. So I'm just going to, I've just realized I didn't do all the little triggers here, so let's do this. If you have any questions, comments, if you want to share some tips of your own, feel free to do so in the tips. And I have comments up on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Periscope, so feel free to dive in should you have anything you would like to say or share. Right? This is a community. This is about sharing. But I'll dive in first. So we talked last week about how important it is for you to have even just a one-page website out there so that you have one point of contact on the internet that is totally under your control, right? What you do on Facebook is fine, but it belongs to Facebook. And if they're down or they go out of business or they decide that they're done and they shut down tomorrow, you have no options. Google Plus. Same thing with Instagram or Pinterest or any of the other places that you might have some of your content. And that's all good. It's good to be in all those places, but you need to have at least one page on the internet that is all about you. And if you want more information about that, go check out last week's show. We went into that in great detail. But one question came up a lot after that, which is basically, what is the domain name? How is that different from a URL? What do I need to do? What does it all mean? So that's what we're going to dive in on a little bit more detail tonight. My name, if you are new here, is Kathleen, and I am here as your tech coach. So basically, the short version of the story is technology is my day gig. It's also my hobby. I really love what it brings to us, all the possibilities of it, and it's just, let's face it, frankly, fun for me. But because of that, everybody in my world comes to me when they need advice, if they're looking for a new computer or they don't understand some technology or what have you. And I've come to realize not everybody has a resident techie in their world, so that's what I'm here for. I'm here to help you solve your problems, get your answers, and maybe feel a little bit more comfortable with the technology that you have in your world. All right, let's get this party started. Probably don't need my picture on that right away, right? Let's do it this way. So tonight we're going to talk about some domain tips for business owners, starting with what is a domain, how is it different from a URL, and all that kind of good stuff. So pull up a chair, get comfy, and let's dive in, shall we? The scratching noises you hear is Murphy. Every time I move the Murphy cam so I can show him to you, he picks a different spot, so I can't show you. But he is right here at my feet, which means I can't move the chair. All right, I'll try to remember that. So, domain, URL, what are we talking about here? Okay, so the URL, okay, in case you're curious, what that stands for is Uniform Resource Locator. Basically, that is the address page. Well, why is that not fitting there? Oh, well. That is the address of your web page, okay? The domain name is the name of your website. Now, how did these two work together? I actually found a very nice example, and I'm going to try to bring that up right now. Where did I move it to? Oh, sometimes. Seriously? I even loaded this ahead of time, and I think I closed the wrong window. All right, hang on a second. I will bring it up again. This is where your history comes in very handy. Except if I didn't actually open it here. Oh, man. What are you going to do? This is life. This is the real world. All right, so it was VeriSign. VeriSign had a very nice explanation of it. Here we go. See? Your browser history. It can be a handy thing. All right, here we go. So, this is their very nice explanation of what the difference is. That big enough for you to see? And it's away from my head. That's good. So, this whole thing here, okay, the entire thing is the URL. That is the full address that somebody uses to get to you. So that includes the HTTP or HTTPS is really what you should be using now. The www, if you're using that, you don't have to anymore, but if you still can. The domain name is a subset of the URL, and then whatever else is in there. Now, most of the time, you know, like people are going to come to your site, they're just going to type in your domain, whatever, .com, .net. We'll get into that in a second. But the browser will automatically put the HTTPS in front of it, the forward slashes, and turn it into a full URL for you. So the whole thing is your URL. The domain name is just the part of it that is specific to you. If that makes any sense. And for a little more context, if we weren't using domain names, these are the options you would have. Either you would have to be giving out a series of letters with dots, or you would have to be giving out really complex strings like this of numbers, letters, colons, all that kind of stuff, because that is what your domain name translates into in the background. So in the background, let me bring this up. In the background, your name is in a bunch of server directories someplace that says, okay, when somebody puts in yourbusinessname.com, that translates to this ID number. And that's how it gets routed through the internet so that they find the server that is hosting your files and then loads up your files. This can get very complicated very quickly, but that's the short version of what is going on when somebody types in that information there. And the good news is all you have to worry about is your domain name, okay? And you don't have to worry about the numbers and all that stuff in the background. The system that's in place takes care of that for you, okay? Alrighty, I wonder what else I don't have loaded that I'm going to need loaded. Give me just one second here because I had a bunch of things that I wanted to show you. And I'm thinking that I must have... I set up multiple windows when I'm doing this, and I think when I had the problem with the social media links, I think I shut everything down, which was silly of me. So give me one second. I'm just going to open up a couple other things that I know I'm going to want to show you in a minute. Yes, this was the other one. Okay. And I think there was one more. Oh, yes. Oh, this is the other one. Okay. That's another part of the conversation we need to have. We're going to cover a lot. No, that is not the one I wanted. I'm so sorry. I really did have all these ready. That's the way it goes. Oh, okay. You know what? I'm just going to type these in because I remember the other one was this. See, these are all goodies you're going to get to see in a minute. And this one. So much for preparation. You just got to roll with it, right? I mean, this is the way life goes some days. And really, I guess I have to take this for the win because I had a really important meeting today and I had a lot of different stuff I had to show and it all worked. So if this is the price we have to pay, my apologies, but I'll take that for the win. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully that is all fitting into the pictures that you have in your head of how this all works. Because really, that's how most people, that's how everybody does things, right? There's the reality of how things actually work, but we all get mental models in our head. So the mental model that you need as far as the whole domain name thing is just that the URL is the full thing that shows up in the address bar, even though you just type in something like facebook.com. If you start to look at your address bars after you start typing things in, like the places you usually go, you'll see that it actually converts into something much bigger, no matter what you put in as whatever.com. So that's what's happening. So that's the difference between the domain name, which is the little short thing, which is just specific to Facebook or Gmail or your business name, or, you know, in my case, this, okay? So it's the, this part here. The yourtechcoach.net part is the domain name, okay? The HTTP that comes over here, nope, this hand. And all the rest of it that shows up later is the full URL and is the combination that gets people where you want them to go. Okay, that was just a convenient time to bring up the URL. All right, let's go back. Okay, so hopefully we've got that out of the way. Now the other pieces, Evidently things didn't save either. That's fine. This is how today's going to go, right? We're good. We can handle this. Okay, so the other piece of the URL domain name combination is what they call a top level domain. So it's a TLD. And that is something else I want to show you. So that is the .com, the .net, the .org, right? So those are the big ones. And what I will show you here is that there is a ton of them. But there is a subset that is used most often. Okay, so you see, whoops, it would help if I would show you. There we go. Actually, I can bring this up. So you see here, you've got all this stuff. Let me make this a little bit bigger for you. I know it's hard to see on mobile devices. One more. Okay. Then my head's going to be in the way. We'll take my head out of the picture. So .com is hands down the first thing that people think of when they go looking for something. So if they're not sure what your domain name is, they think they kind of remember, I can guarantee you they're going to try .com first. So you should always try to get the .com if you possibly can. The .org originally was intended to only be used by nonprofit organizations, but not all of the people who sell domain names, and it's not really sell, it's rent, we'll get into that, held to that rule. So now anybody can buy it, but they do encourage that nonprofits are the one that use it. There's no penalty if you're not a nonprofit and you use one. .net is pretty much the default stop for people like me who couldn't get the .com because somebody else had it and wasn't willing to release it. So that is the second thing most people try. If they put in, yourbusinessname.com and they don't get who they're expecting, then they're going to try the .net. And then the international one, the .edu, is strictly for educational resources, trade schools, universities, that kind of stuff. And then .gov, of course, is just for the government. And .mil is for the military. But these are the ones that most people are aware of. These are the ones that most people are going to try to use and expect that they're going to find you. Now, I'm just going to scan through this page really quick just to give you a feel for how many. So all of these things in this first column here, these are all other top level domains. These are valid. Now you'll see on the right side, there's some yeses and nos. We're not going to worry about this too much. I just wanted to give you a sense of the fact that there are other options if you want another option. In particular, things have gotten popular like .shop, .biz. So there's a bunch of different ones, but these are all just ones that are location based. So that can be handy. So if you do business in a certain area and you want to highlight that fact, you might want to consider one of the location ones. But for the most part, most people don't need it. It's a very specific use case who would need to use that. But it just keeps going down and down. So just so you know that there are lots of other options out there. So if you are looking for something different, if you're looking for something else that you want to try, that's totally fine. You can totally go for that. Just, keep in mind that the first places people are going to go are .com and then probably .net, maybe .org, depending on what kind of business you're running or what kind of organization you are. Okay, so there are free ways to get your domain name and there are paid. The short version is if you are a business and you are serious about your business, you need to pay for it. Okay, and the reason is when you get a free one, so let me use Blogger as an example. You can set up with Blogger, right, a one-page site. We talked about this last week. And they'll give you a domain so people can find you. The problem with that, I'm just looking to see if maybe I have one as a test. Maybe. So the problem with that is that it gives you what is called really a subdomain. So what it would be is yourbusinessname.blogspot.com. Okay, so what that is, that's really them letting you use their domain name to target people to your location. I thought I had one set up. Maybe I don't. Yeah, I guess not. Mainly because I know that it's not a great way to go. But it is an option if you absolutely can't, for whatever reason, for a short time period, not pay for your own. Yes, it is viable. People will be able to find you, but you need to keep in mind that you don't own it. Okay, so again, If Google decides tomorrow to turn off Blogger, you can't take that name, so yourbusiness.blogspot.com, you can't take that and use that anywhere else. It's just gone forever. You may be able to download the content and all that kind of stuff, but your location is gone. So if you think about it, if you have set yourself up with a free one, right, where you're using their domain and you're a sub, and you've put that on your invoices, your business cards, your marketing materials, you know, your flyers, your anything, right? If you've gone to the expense of putting that in places so people can find it, which is the whole point of setting up the website, you're going to have to throw all that out, right? Because then you're still going to end up having to go and do this all over again. So the smart move is to go ahead and pay for it, because you don't own it and you can't move it if you use one of those. Another example for that is if you use the WordPress free domain, then it would be your business name, wordpress.com or .org, however they're set up. And again, you don't own it and you can't take it away anywhere. And domain names are not expensive. Now, the one thing I want to make clear here is there are ways to get free for a year. Why is this not working? Clearly everything is fighting back. Everything is paying me off for my meetings going so well today. That's all there is to it. You can get a free domain for a year. How do you do that? If you sign up with something like Squarespace or a bunch of other places, they will, as part of you signing up for their services for a year, they'll cover the cost of your domain name for a year. Now, that is a true domain name that you will own, okay? It's yours. It's portable. If you decide to move later and get private hosting or move to another service, it is yours and you can go with it. What they're doing there is it's just sort of a bonus for signing up for their service. So you need to be clear. You need to read things very carefully. If somebody is saying that you get a free domain, check to see, is it a subdomain where it would be yourname.blogspot.com or yourname.providerservice.com, or is it yourbusinessname.com, yourbusinessname.net, whatever it's going to be. If it's the latter, that's truly your domain and you're good to go. And what that means is you're going to then have to continue to pay for it going forward. Now, this is what I was saying a little bit earlier about people reference buying a domain name, but really all you're doing is renting. And this is an important distinction because people have gotten into trouble over this. So it generally costs, depending on the service, the top level domains. Some of them are more expensive than others, but generally you're talking like $12 to $20 a year for your domain name. You have to renew that every year. It's a good idea if you're planning on being in business to put it on auto renewal, because this happens all the time. Somebody forgets to pay for the renewal and somebody else comes in and snipes that domain away from you. There have been big lawsuits and fights and piles of money changing hands because somebody forgot to put the credit card number in and renew for $20. So you want to be very clear about this. You're not, when you pay that $20, it's not yours forever. That's for the year. Okay, that means for the year, however you set it up, it's going to be going to your content. But if you don't renew, if you forget, they have every right to take it and send it to sell to somebody else. So be clear about it, okay? They say you're buying it, but truly it's a rental situation and you need to renew it. Now you can buy it for 5 years, 10 years at a time. Sometimes they give you a discount then. So, you know, there's different ways to do it, but I highly recommend clicking that auto renewal and making sure your credit card stays up to date, because it's just safer that way, okay? All right, let's keep going. We got lots to cover, and I'm trying to keep these from going an hour again. Although, the way tonight's going, maybe I shouldn't set such a high bar. Okay, so evidently, this is also not going to fit tonight. Let me just fix this. I don't know why everything has shifted. But that's okay. We can deal with these things, right? All right, so the other thing that comes up when people are going through this process, somewhere in your checkout or your making your selections for your order, people, you'll see something comes up that says, you know, do you want to do a private registration for this? So the reason for this is because the information about who is hosting the site, where it's being hosted, and who owns it is public information. So it is available on the internet. And actually we can go there. Let me do that. So there is this thing called Who Is. There's a bunch of different ways to get to it, but this is sort of the big one. And you can put in any domain that you want. Let me just try, yeah, let's put in facebook.com because it's entertaining. You have to confirm you're not a robot. Okay, so for Facebook, we can see all this information, right? Now, so this is why, so when people are buying, let me bring this back up. When people are getting a domain name that they're going to use for personal purposes, right? They're setting up a personal blog or whatever. I can understand the private registration thing a little bit more than I can for a company. Because if you're doing it for a company, I'm assuming you're going to put in your business information, which is what you know they've done here, right? So there's the registrant, so that's the person who owns it. The admin is the technical person who's running it, and then another tech contact. Okay, but it's address, it's phone number, it's fax number, it's email addresses, right? I'm trying to think of another one we can put in. I don't know. I always draw a blank when I think about doing these things. Anybody got a website they want me to check? Go ahead. Just throw one out there and I'll put it in. As I'm trying to think about who's another good one to do. I'm trying to think of someone who might have sort of a mix of information out there. And of course I'm not coming up with it. Well, let's see what, well, actually I have to check the spelling on this. Okay, so let's try this one. So this is an author that I like. I have no idea what we're going to get here. This is sort of gambling here. Yeah, gamble when you go live, right? And I still have to say I'm not a robot. Oh, that's right. It does carrot. Can't put that in there. So, okay. So he's an author that I like, and he's got a very active blog. But, yeah, so sure enough. So he's got all of his publisher information is out here. So this just gives you the idea of what they mean by your information is public, right? So it's your name, it's your phone number, it's your mailing address, email address, that kind of stuff. So if for whatever reason, when you set up your domain, you gave your home address, your home phone number, your personal email, which for business I wouldn't recommend doing anyway, but if you did, then you might want to go ahead and pay for the private registration option, which again tends to run an additional $15 to $25 a year. And in that case, what they do is instead of putting your information there, they have sort of like a holding company that they put up there. Other than that, I don't know that it really matters because let's face it, if it's your business, that information's already out there, right? It should be on your Google My Business page, right? It should be in the phone book. It should be in all the usual places. So it's not super secret information. I mean, it's not like your credit card number or anything. It's just your name, your address, that kind of stuff. So if you're a business, the smart way to do this is to put your business information in. If you've already got your domain set up and you're like, oh, geez, I didn't think about this, and you put your private information in, maybe it's worth it to you to go and set up the private registration. You can change it, but that takes a little bit of time. So maybe while you're making that change, you would go ahead and want to pay for it, you know, in the meantime. But it's not a big deal, but a lot of people get very locked up over whether or not they should do it. So that's why I figured I should mention it. So it's a personal call. Whichever you feel more comfortable with is the way to go. It's 6 1/2 dozen of the other. And if you want to entertain yourself, you can go do a web search for Whois, pick one of the tools, and go and check people's information. It's not really that interesting, but whatever. Okay, so let's get down to some important tips. When you're going to pick your domain name, now I won't kid you, it's much harder than it was, right? So there was a point in the internet for about 20 minutes when you could get exactly the domain you wanted, right? So Pepsi went and snagged Pepsi.com and all that kind of stuff. And then people saw that this was going to become popular and a whole sub-industry of what do they call it? Basically sitting on domain names. So people were just going in and buying on spec. It's almost like stocks kind of a thing. They were just buying them on maybe in case somebody wanted them, and then would pay them more money for it. So between that and the fact that everybody and their grandmother's dog literally is on the web these days, there's not... The odds of you getting your first choice is very, very low. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. I mean, let's face facts. I would have preferred to have the .com, but I didn't get it. And, you know, that's life. So what you want to do first is you want to make a list of potential names that you would be interested in using for your domain name. Go for at least 10, just to make your life easier. As much as you can, try for .coms, but of course stay open to .nets or whatever else might work for you. And go and take a look at that top level domain name list to see if maybe there's something there that might work for you. Just keep in mind, and I can't drive this home enough, people's first stop, and they're going to assume that you're using a .com, but it's not always possible. Make sure that whatever you're doing is easy to type. Now, you got to keep in mind that people are doing this not just on desktops with full keyboards, but they're doing it on mobile devices, right? On laptops, on touchscreens, all that kind of stuff. So the shorter and easier to type you can make it, the better off you are. Again, not always an easy choice, but it's worth trying for. Make sure that it is easy to pronounce and spell. Think about things like this that I have covered up here. Okay, so this is the Google Assistant Mini. We are more and more talking to our devices, and you want to make sure that your domain name is something that the devices can recognize. It's in your best interests. As much as you can, where possible, try to avoid numbers and hyphens. And in 2 minutes, I'm going to go the other way. But that's just the general, like, when you're going for that, the top 3 domain names that you'd like to use, try to keep those out. You may end up having to go there, but we'll cover that in a second. Okay. Try to make it easy to remember. Okay, if people are scratching their heads every time they're trying to visit your site or recommend you to somebody or whatever, that's working against you. So try to make it something that rolls off, make it something that's obviously connected to your business, ideally your business name, but you may have to work on some variations. Research it. Okay, so you want to look at, making sure that it's not already been trademarked or copyrighted. You want to take a look at what comes up if people enter typos into that particular domain name. Sometimes some terrible things happen. You want to look for things that are similar but aren't you, because then you are going to want to maybe rethink your choices to make sure that yours stands out very clearly as you. And so it's like the difference between, like, let's say something like greenlandscaper.com or greenlandscapers.com, right? Probably 2 different businesses, and you don't want people inadvertently going to the wrong one because they might be the same type of business or service as you, and it might work out just as well for them, and they may never realize that they didn't actually find you. So you want to make sure that you've thought about that kind of stuff. This is another big one. You want to go and do a little research to make sure that that name has not already been penalized someplace. So spammers, porn sites, there's a lot of malware people. They will take a perfectly benign domain name and screw it up for the rest of us by using it for these other purposes that gets it blocked and gets it put on blacklists and gets it penalized by search engines so that it doesn't show up as high. So you want to do a little research on that. Your best bet for that type of research is to go to do like some Google site searches. So you do site. Let me see if I can get one to come up real quick. Just make sure that I'm doing this right, because I always have to do it twice. It's just one of those things. I don't do it enough that it rolls off my fingers. Yeah. I can never remember. So, or is it site or is it site search? Sec. There we go. Okay. I just want to make sure I had it right before I showed you. So we're going to pick on Neil again, mainly because he's awesome. So what you would want to do is go up here. Let me make this big enough for you again. Is you would do site space search : and then the domain name you're thinking about to see what comes up. You know, see, does it say spam? Does it say, you know, that it's blocked? There's all kinds of results that come back. But the point is that you want to do your own search because you don't want to get all invested in a domain name, pay for it, start putting it on all of your social media and all of your marketing materials, and then find out that it's not a good one to use because people are not going to be able to get to it. Choose the appropriate domain name extension. So that's what we were looking at. That was that top level domain name list. So for example, you wouldn't want to use a edu extension for a site that sells, I don't know, anything else, right? If you're not an education site, if you're not an education service, you should not be using the edu. That will penalize you. It will also confuse any potential clients who are trying to find you, because it's not the connection that they would expect to make in their head. So you want to be very careful about that. Check once you get it down to like 1 or 2 that you think, oh, okay, you've done your research, you've done the search, it looks like they're available. Do a quick search to make sure that you can also get those on the places where you're doing your social media. So make sure that you can get it on Facebook, on Instagram, on Pinterest, on Twitter, all the places that you're using it. You may not be able to do so. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to use myself as point, right? So not only could I not get yourtechcoach.com on Twitter, I was able to get it on all the other, well, no, that's not true on Facebook. It's like, I am your tech coach. And on Twitter, I couldn't get, again, just the one without the underscore. I had to get the one with the underscore because, again, somebody else already had it and didn't want to give it up. So this is going to be a process. This is going to be a trial and error kind of thing. This is going to take a little bit of time. I'm sorry, but that's just how it is. I have one little suggestion that might make it a little faster for you, but you do want to think about this. Don't let it stop you from moving forward, but just sit down, give yourself an hour, come up with a list of names, do the research, do some poking around, and go ahead and do it. Because when you find one that is 50, 60, 70% good, right? It's clean, it works for your branding, whatever it is your business is. You can get it on at least a couple or one social media. You need to jump in and grab it, because this is not the kind of thing where you can go, yeah, okay, I'm going to take it for a test drive and test it, and I'll check back in 3 weeks. It's liable to be gone. These move fast. It's the internet, right? Internet time is quick. So you need to make sure that you are getting it as soon as you get it nailed down and get it down to that 1 or 2. If you're really not sure between the 2, get both. They're not that expensive, and you can always let one go later if you end up not using it. But you don't want to do all of this, and then when you're ready to pull the trigger and put your credit card number in, find out that it's been taken away by somebody else already. That would be a bad thing. Okay, next. You want to consider buying the different variations. Now, what am I talking about by that? So maybe you want to buy the .com and the .net, okay, to make it easy for people who are used to going one way or the other with it. You may want to consider buying one that has the S or not the S, right? So if you are Green Lawn Landscaping, you could do like Green Lawns Landscaping, if that looks like is the typical kind of typo that would expect people to make. You could also buy typos, because the idea here is you can actually have multiple domain names and point them all to one location, right? So if you're concerned that people are going to maybe, spell your business name wrong or your URL wrong, or maybe you ended up having to use a number, right? So maybe you had to put in, the number 1 into your name in order to get the combinations that you wanted. Or maybe that is your business name, right? Maybe it's 1-to-1 consulting or something like that. Some people are going to put in the numbers. Some people are going to put it in as letters. Some people are going to put it in, with hyphens between it. Some people aren't. So you want to make sure that you buy all those combinations and then point them all to the one that you prefer people to use, your preference, your number 1 domain name, because that's a real easy way to help people find you without them having to go, oh, shoot, that's not right. Oh, shoot, that's not it. If you can anticipate what the problems might be, and you make it easier for them to or just automatically land in the right place, they feel good, which makes them in a much better mindset to do business with you. So you want to go ahead and think about that. You also, and I know you don't want to necessarily hear this, but it's just a reality of life, right? Nobody in the universe is liked by everybody. It's just not how it goes. And there are people who will immediately, buy up, whether it's competition or people with small minds or whatever. I hate yourbusinessname.com. Your business name, sucks.com. So some people go ahead and buy up as many of those as they can get their hands on or can think of. Some people don't. It's a choice. Bigger companies certainly do it. If you go and you try some of those combinations for companies that maybe you're unhappy with. Cable companies are very popular for this. You'll find out, that most companies have taken care of those and have pushed them maybe to a support page or something. The ones that haven't, you will find websites filled with vile, angry places you don't want to spend time. But they're out there, and you have to decide for yourself how much of this you can afford to handle, you know, and anticipate or not, and then make the appropriate choices. But again, you could buy up, you know, yourbusinessnamesucks.com, you know, and then point it to your page if you want to. It is just something else to think about. Certainly consider the misspellings. Certainly consider alternate top-level domains, .com, .net, .biz. And, you know, make whatever choices work best for you. When you go in and you actually buy your domain name, most of them say, hey, would you also like these? So they'll suggest plenty for you if you are curious about that. Okay. So the other thing that you need to think about, it's funny. So as I was preparing for this show, I just happened to be on Facebook answering a question, and I saw something come up in my newsfeed, and I'm like, gee, that's right on topic. Somebody was asking for advice. He had posted several domain names that he was thinking about using, and he wasn't sure, you know, which one to go with, and so he was looking for advice. So I'm going to show you a couple just to kind of get this thought in your head so that you, again, you look at it from the big picture, okay? Now, most of these are not, you know, real anymore, but it's at one point they were. So you have to think about not just how your business name is and what you're looking to use, but how it could be misinterpreted by the brain, okay? Because when somebody puts in a URL, it's going to go in as all lowercase. So a lot of people try to make sure that it's clear to read by always putting it, you know, displaying it with uppercase. So, you know, if it's like, again, the green lawns landscaping, so it would be capital G, capital L, to make it easier to read for the brain, which is fine. You can do that in your marketing materials and all that, but you have to keep in mind that once it goes into the URL line, it's all going to go lowercase, which can change the game a little bit. So here's some examples. Hold on to your hats. I'm just going to show a couple. All right. So hopefully that's big enough. Maybe I can go a little bit bigger. So these are examples that actually happened at one point. Most of them have been taken care of since then. But for example, so somebody who does, I guess it was agents, managers, publicists. The name of the company was Who Represents, but when you put it into a URL, it came up as Whore Presents. Not what they were going for. They have since fixed it. There is a site that I have used for years where geeks get together and share tips and information and ask questions, that kind of stuff. And it's called the Experts Exchange, right? And there's free and there's paid and all that. But of course, the URL caused some problems because it looked not like it was a technical site, but maybe a site for people who are looking for transgender surgery or something. Not what they were looking for. So this is an example. Okay, so we had talked about not using numbers, not using hyphens or underscores. This is an example where the hyphen was the answer. So what they did was they went to experts-exchange and it solved the problem. So, well, yes, it's recommended that you don't use them. In some cases, it is the best solution. This is just another one. It's some sort of a animal thing, but when you put the name together, it sounded like anything but. And then I'm going to show you the one which is sort of the granddaddy of them all, which if you get people talking about this, this is the one that comes up. Now, this is no longer the site for a real company, but somebody finds it funny enough that they are keeping a dummy site up to show the example. So this was a company that sold pens, okay? And the name was Pen Islands, but the URL was something completely different. So it's just something that you need to keep in mind. It's something you need to think about. You need to look at the domain names that you are trying and make sure that this is not going to happen to you, because it still happens today. It happens all the time. And you don't want to become popular on the internet for the wrong reasons. You don't want to become the latest jokes, right? So, so when you're trying to, sorry, I keep forgetting to check. Okay, we're good. No, that's fine. Keep talking. We're all good. If you need a little help getting an idea, getting names, getting the juices flowing around your business domain, there are these things called domain name generators. Now, how helpful they are is up for discussion, but I did want to at least share it with you so that you knew that they were out there in case you wanted to take a look at it. So this is just one. If you do a search for them, there's dozens of them out there. And the idea is that you would just start putting something in here and go, you know, your business name. And what it does is it starts suggesting possible combinations that you can think of. Now, some of them are pointless and have nothing to do with it, but some of them do spur ideas. So it is worth something to work at. But like, you know, for example, if you wanted yourbusinessname.com, they estimate, because somebody already owns it, that it's going to cost you about $44,000, which you're not going to do. But you can see, you know, the different combinations. And like I said, it's really just worth it. If you're just looking for some quick ideas, if you're just trying to get the idea train rolling, a site like this could be handy for you to kind of get a feel for some different options. It's worth a try, right? I mean, you've got nothing to lose by giving that kind of thing a try. There's lots of different ones out there, so you can always try something different, but it is something to consider as you're going through this process. To be honest, this is the hardest part of coming up with your domain name and getting it done. So once you've got it, you know, and then you can go to either, like if you decided to use Squarespace or something like that, you can just go in and buy it right through them. They're not actually a seller of the domains. They use 2Cows and I think somebody else. There's, again, hundreds of companies out there that are simply in the business of selling and managing the domain names. But you don't have to like necessarily go there and then go someplace else to set it up. You can. So there's two different paths to go down here. One is that you can go to a hosting company, a domain name company, and buy your name. Now, in case you didn't see last week, just to be clear, just because you have your domain name doesn't mean you have everything you need. Okay, because just having that domain name is a lot like buying numbers to put on the outside of your house before you have your house. Okay, you've got the numbers, but there's no place for people to go yet. There's no place to hang them. So, you know, you could do that just to hold on to it while you're deciding, are you going to self-host, or are you going to use a hosting service, all that kind of stuff. But understand it doesn't mean anything until you get the other pieces in place. So there's basically three pieces, right? You need a domain name. You need a hosting site, which is basically where you're going to store your files so that people can come and visit them. And then you need that content. You need those files. Once you have those three pieces built and hooked up together, that's when you have a website. Okay, and that's when you need to make sure that you're paying for your hosting and you're paying for your domain, because these are different things. So you can pay for your hosting and forget to pay for your domain, and nobody's going to get to your hosting because you don't own your domain anymore. By the same token, you can own your domain, rent it, but if you haven't paid for your hosting, people put it in and there's no place to go because this is gone because you didn't pay for it. So you need to make sure you've got all those pieces in place. Now, if you want to keep this simple, go to someplace like Squarespace. And now, they don't pay me. I just recommend them because it is such an easy, straightforward process, and they really create nice, easy to maintain sites. But the nice thing about whether you go with that or WordPress or however you want to do it, WordPress.com, don't buy it from a hosting company. You can go there, you can say, okay, I'm ready, I want to create my site. You go in, they take you through the series of questions, you fill out the information, and they will take care of everything for you, including helping you buy the domain, and then they will do the business of tying together all of the pieces in the back end that need to happen to connect that domain name to your hosting. Okay, and then you're responsible for putting the content out there, which is reasonable because they can't possibly know about your business and what you want to say. If you go the other road, if you buy your domain name from a company and then you go to a different company for your hosting or for, you know, your all-in-one package of website services, you're then going to be responsible for having to go into some pretty geeky stuff to put in information in different places. If you're interested in understanding how to do that, I can certainly go through a show for you on this. But if you are looking for the simplest, most straightforward, easy, no tech, low tech way to do it, go to squarespace.com or go to wordpress.com or org. I never remember why. I just did the show last week. Let me double check. It should be wordpress.com. You would think they would have the money to buy that. It is wordpress.com. Before you go to WordPress, watch the last show just so you're making an informed choice. But if you do go to one of those kinds of services, and there's others like that, I'm just using those because those are the big names people recognize. They take care of a lot of the technical stuff for you, leaving you to just focus on doing your content. But it's not the only way to go, so I just want to put it out there that there are alternatives. Okay, I think I have covered everything that I wanted to cover. I'm just going to check my list real quick. We talked about misspellings. We talked about the negative ones. Okay, right. One more thing. So you may, as you're doing this search, people may reach out to you and say, hey, I see you're looking for this business.com. Would you like to buy it from me? That is possible, but you need to be careful about how you do it. You want to make sure that you're dealing with a broker, not somebody who doesn't actually own the name and is just looking to take your money away. It's a kind of hairy situation if you aren't working with somebody that's doing this as a service and offers you some protection. So stay open to it, but do your research and make sure that you're doing it in a way that doesn't end up screwing you over, right? I mean, that's basically what we're worried about here. The other thing I do want to say is don't get too freaked out if your perfect domain name is not available and you can't get your hands on it. It's not the end of the world. It just requires a little bit of creative thinking and you'll come up with something that you like. Just do keep in mind that you will be putting it everywhere. You want to try to, if it can't be exactly the same as the rest of your social, you want it to be very close so it's easy for people to recognize the associations. And you want it to be easy to say because you're going to be saying it a lot. And if you want to be ahead of the curve, make sure it's really clear when you speak it so that the assistants can do it. Because that's a problem that people are running into now. Because, of course, 5 years ago, the smart assistants didn't exist, right? So that wasn't a part of the checklist for people. It needs to be now. Because a lot of people are running into problems that when, people are trying to say, hey, assistant device, show me this website.com, it's bringing up all kinds of other stuff because it's not understanding. So it's just something else to think about. I know there's a lot to think about, but this is sort of the central point of your online presence. So yes, it's going to take a little bit of effort, but once you have that in place, all the rest of it does fall into place much easier. Okay? If you have any questions, if you want more information, if you want me to take you through the process of how you actually attach a domain that you bought someplace else with a service that you're on today, I'm happy to do that. Reach out, let me know. If you go to yourtechcoach.net, there's a contact form. You can let me know. Folks on Facebook and on YouTube can put a comment in there, and I'm happy to do that. I'm sorry, Periscope, they don't let us do that. But feel free to do it in whatever way is easiest for you, and I will be very happy to get that out to you as soon as possible. Also, if you're interested in staying up to date with the shows that I'm doing, and I'm going to be starting to send out a once a month newsletter, yourtechcoach.net/mailing list. You just have to give me basically your email address, verify with MailChimp that yes, you've requested for this, and then you'll be on my mailing list and you will get all of these updates. Almost an hour again. I'm going to work on this. We're going to get the show shorter, I promise, but thank you so much for hanging out. Thank you for sticking through the little bit of technical issues in the beginning. That's just life. That's live streaming. You know that this is not a pre-recorded show because if it was not, you wouldn't have seen any of that, right? All right, everybody. Thanks so much. Go get your domain name, get your one-page web presence out there, more if you want, and make sure that people can always find you and that you have something on the internet that is under your control. It is the way to go for your business. All right, everybody. Have a good one. I will see you next week. Bye-bye.